Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday, the 17th day of October 2013. Top link, the top mega link at drudgereport.com, just above the fold, says chase fees on cash, limits withdrawals, bans international wire transfers. Again, if you go to drudgereport.com and see the headline up there, chase fees on cash, limits withdrawals on some accounts. And this is the beginning of currency controls and so much more. We're going to be breaking this down today because it ties into a larger group of issues that really show us that we're in dire straits in this republic, but also worldwide, and are under the clutches of the kleptocratic Big Six megabanks, led by the ringleader. If the banking cartel could be likened to a satanic conspiracy in hell, J.P. Morgan Chase would be Satan, the devil, the old serpent himself. They are the kingpin, the leader, the master, the energy force in the entire system. They are the Sauron of Mordor. They are the all-seeing eye, lidless and wreathed in flame, who are bringing in a global anti-human corporate world government. And we're going to be breaking it down and read my update to the Paul Joseph Watson article that drudgereport.com, the only news site in the country yesterday, to link to our story. And today, it's German, British, Iranian, Japanese, Russian news covering it. As of an hour ago, and I checked this, we need to check again on Google News, no one in the U.S. dare talk about the Dark Lord, Sauron. No one dare talk about J.P. Morgan Chase. No one dare talk about the biggest private shareholder in the private run-for-profit Federal Reserve. No one talk about the 100 years now coming up in December that we've been under their control, that they've captured the country and have been converting us to a total tyranny while using our energy and our funds to build the planetary dictatorship. This is a big, big deal, and I basically broke it down in an article update that I added to the top of Watson's article this morning. And we're going to read this when we come back. Then separately, I had another epiphany today. I was jogging on the hike and bike trail with my father. As I hang out more and more, the older I get, the more I hang out with my dad. And I tend to hang out with older people. I feel old, so my dad's not that old, but I just like hanging around with him and my mom, but also other folks. And so we went for a little jog. I'm trying to get him in shape. I'm trying to get in shape. He was about 100 yards behind me and slowed down. And I jogged past a young family with a newborn little baby in a pack on the chest of his father. And it reminded me of my children in the little infant packs. And it was a little bitty tiny baby, just a few months old. And when I jogged past him, I thought, you know, usually you'd stop and give them the speech about vaccines, GMO, fluoride. But, man, I'm late. I got out of here late. I got to get to work. I got a lot of stuff to get done. And so when I stopped and turned back around and came back past him, I stopped and I talked to him. And I had this thought after I got in the car later that the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start videotaping these encounters just as an example of what to do with others. So you warn them. It's our responsibility to warn them. And the fact that people think it's weird you're warning them about vaccines, GMO and stuff, that'd be like saying in the 1960s, if you knew about putting syphilis in black people's vaccines, injecting them with syphilis, infecting them, if I knew and didn't go tell them, hey, don't go be part of that Tuskegee thing. My friends, we have another incredibly important worldwide broadcast lined up for you today. Lyndon LaRouche will be popping in to talk about geopolitical developments and inside information he's got. We're going to talk to 3 different members from pro-open carry Second Amendment groups that are the cutting edge of the real civil rights movement in this country. C.J. Grisham will pop in, Terry Holcomb, and many, many others are going to be popping in here on the broadcast today. We're going to have the folks on from don'tcomply.com as well, texascarry.org, and others. And I'll be down at an open carry demonstration coming up 10 a.m. with the Texas Land Commissioner and others in San Antonio, Texas, in front of the Alamo this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. The police chief had said he was going to violate the law in the newspaper and arrest anybody that open carried a long rifle, which is totally legal in Texas and most other states. He's now backed off and says he'll allow it this one day. And that was in the San Antonio Express News and a press release by the police department yesterday. And the police department said, we're all on the same time. It's not us against them. And that's because the union, and I've got this from inside sources, but the police have also spoken out, said we're not going to arrest people for having legal guns. So San Antonio Police Department, that's what the civil rights movement's all about. We're not going to arrest people if black folks go into lunch counters and eat. See, that's what you've got to do. Like Mahatma Gandhi, they said you couldn't gather your own salt. You had to buy it from the British East India Company in India, even though they had oceans surrounding half the country. And salt was very inexpensive. They would arrest you years in prison if you tried to gather your own salt from the ocean. So Mahatma Gandhi marched to the sea across the country, and first hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands followed him to all break the law and sit at the front of the bus, eat at the lunch counter. That was the case here in the United States. But with him, go to the sea and gather the salt. Well, we are going to reclaim the Second Amendment and say, being a father, being a mother, being a Christian, being a libertarian, being a conservative, being an American, being a veteran is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. And you're not real liberals like Thomas Jefferson that are against it. You're authoritarians, and everybody's starting to see you for what you really are. That is what is coming up. Let me give you our top story. We broke this at Infowars.com yesterday, and I saw the comments on some of the other news aggregating sites that aren't mainstream media. People couldn't believe it. Well, when Paul Watson went with the article, he already had, I talked to him yesterday afternoon, more than 10 sources. This had been coming in for about 4 or 5 days. He didn't know what to make of it. It kind of got stuck in the pile of news coming in. He goes through all the whistleblower and tips that come in to the InfoWars emails, show tips at Infowars.com and other emails like that. And the rest of our crew does that. But after he had more than 10 of them in yesterday morning, he indeed made some phone calls. And they said, yes, that's our policy, but that they couldn't comment on it. And then he went with the article that you saw up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com titled Chase Bank Limits Withdrawals, Bans International Wire Transfers. Now, DrudgeReport.com, the biggest news site in the world, picked up the article. And you would have thought when DrudgeReport.com picked this up in the afternoon that it would have been all over the news. Because by then, Mike Adams had called me and said, yeah, because we do international business in China, with their publishing company. He's got a pretty big company. He doesn't brag about it, but he's a pretty successful guy. He said, no, we got the letter, and we've got a big business account. No more foreign wire transfers. And they basically have been telling people, just get a new account. We're not going to get, do your business. I mean, that's what a lot of people are basically being told. And so it's completely confirmed this is going on. I personally had my wife go into Chase yesterday and ask him some stuff. And then I, on the way home, I had to leave early because of this, went to one of their centers and went in and said, I'd like to set up an account, but is it true that I can't do wire transfers and I can't have more than $50,000 of any type of cash business a month total? That's not just withdrawals, folks. I can't, say, run a restaurant and have $50,000 in cash deposits in a month. They will shut down your account. And they said that subject to change, it may even end up being less per billing cycle or per statement cycle every month. So let's just be clear. Let's get the denial out of the way. Chase put out an official tweet and said this is their new policy. So this is real. This is going on. Now, let's talk about what it signifies. DrudgeReport.com has since last night moved it from being a top story to the top story. The big link at drudgereport.com, in case you want to find it. Chase fees on cash limits withdrawals on some accounts. Now, the French, the German, the British, the Irish, the Japanese, they're all reporting on this and freaking out and saying capital controls, looks like Greece, looks like Spain, emergency, red alert, run around like a chicken with your head cut off, because that's what this signifies. Any way you slice it, this goes from super horrible to absolutely dire. There, as of just a little while ago, there are no news articles in the United States about this. Just like Obama last week had a press conference, he's had several others, and no one will ask him about Obamacare not working. I mean, that's the first question. In a real press conference, even 5, 6 years ago, everyone would be asking different angles of that. Guaranteed. Anybody who works in the media or even citizens that follow news conferences, you know whatever the big issue is with the president, the White House, the economy, the government, the system, that's going to be 9 out of 10 questions. And after every angle's been hit, if they're still taking questions, they'll ask about some other stuff. No one at multiple press conferences, multiple press conferences has asked him about Obamacare. That's how controlled the press is. No one has asked him about 100+ days earlier this year. Drudge is pointing that out today, the mystery of 100+ days where the debt ceiling just stopped because they couldn't get it passed and didn't threaten everybody with, oh my gosh, we're going to lose our credit rating. Of course, the Chinese have now lowered the U.S. credit rating, and they're our, quote, biggest creditors. So they're already maneuvering us towards bankruptcy, and they're already teaching the sheeple that we're going to go totally bankrupt, not because they've maneuvered us into 600+ trillion in fake derivatives that they've signed us onto, and have the country in 70 trillion in unfunded mandates, and 17 trillion right now currently as actual debt due now. 17 trillion due now, 70+ trillion in unfunded mandates, any way you cut it. And then 600+ trill that we've been signed on to that's not our debt. But there's total economic ignorance in the general public, so they can get away with this because of economic and geopolitical illiteracy. Illiteracy. Pygmies in the middle of Africa know more about government and banking, I guarantee you, than the average trendy. I'll guarantee you if a pygmy was given 100 gold coins and said, go deposit it in the bank, the pygmy would laugh at you and run and bury it under rocks. Guaranteed, the pygmy is 100 times smarter that's never even seen civilization than the average trendy out there who does not know their head from a hole in the ground. Now, here's the big top story, and let me read over this so you understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with and why this is so important, all right? Update, Chase Bank limits cash withdrawals, bans international wire transfers. Paul Joseph Watson, update by Alex Jones. Alex Jones says, quote, the fact that these letters were being sent out to Chase customers was confirmed at the time that we published. But in the last 24 hours, we have confirmed that even large businesses doing international transactions have also received the same letters or similar letters. By the way, people with other banks are getting these now, too, by the way. I haven't gotten to that yet. As I told you, and Chase won't be doing this alone. You can assure yourself of that. Let me continue. I personally visited Chase Bank and inquired about setting up an account and asked if I could wire money out of the country or withdraw the amount of cash listed in the letter. I was told no, and that I would have to qualify with them for a special type of international bank account and would have to deposit huge amounts of money and pay fees to be able to access those services. What this constitutes is a war on cash and a war on small businesses and individuals. 2 years ago, we saw a giant backlash against Bank of America when they announced customers would be charged for using their own money via their debit card, $5 per transaction. We have crossed the Rubicon where now the currency has been devalued so far that you will have to pay money to have your money in a bank or use a debit card. It's like garbage now. The banks have unlimited fiat, so why do they want yours? They've already got the money with the QE Unlimited that you're going to pay taxes on later. They're going to gang rape you 2 ways, devaluing and making you pay it back to them because they got the money. How's that sound? By the way, Homeland Security is standing by with automatic weapons if you don't like it. Quote, Homeland Security is there to make sure this takeover happens, this criminal bank robbery of you, of your bank account. Continuing, in saying that international wire transfers are too much of a risk, Chase Bank might as well be bankrupt because it's telling you there is no money to withdraw. And they are a zombie bank, so they've been bankrupt for at least 5 years. This is where the mega banks have wanted to take us all along. A total cashless society that destroys all privacy and allows them to fine and fee the general population into serfdom, slavery, bondage. This is clearly a major step towards capital controls, as we saw in the Cyprus bail-in. We are now receiving reports from business partners who we know well that they are being told by their banks that similar regulations to those adopted by Chase are coming within the next few months. Chase would not be implementing a business-killing strategy like this unless all other major banks were also planning to follow suit. What we see is mega banks leading the way to set the precedent that all the others will follow. Chase needs to issue a statement clarifying exactly why they are imposing these capital controls. It is clear that these regulations are being enacted for 3 different but equally plausible reasons, all of which contribute to the ultimate goal of sacrificing the global economy on the altar of derivative monster zombie banks. And I will cover the 3 facts when we come back that you need to know. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Ladies and gentlemen, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. And when the bankers are done with it, you're going to have nothing left to lose, and they know you're going to physically fight back, and that's why they've got the biggest military the planet's ever seen, geared up 24/7, trying to take on you and your family. And the military has woken up because of the training and the bad-mouthing of the Founding Fathers and any form of American liberty. But we have to support the military and other people in the criminal government with public support and speaking out so that they're not alone in refusing the illegal orders they're being given. You understand that, ladies and gentlemen? The globalists want to impoverish you to control you. And now, if you just joined us, J.P. Morgan Chase has come out publicly and said, hey, coming up starting in the middle of November, November 17th, for all these business accounts, you can't wire money, period. But you can have money wired in. That's a capital control. When a country starts going into hyperinflation, which they're set to do according to every yardstick, under QE Unlimited, and the new Fed chief says she's going to accelerate what Bernanke's done. She's the reported author of the helicopter bin strategy. And so the last thing they're going to want is for dollars to start going out of the country to be converted, or people leaving the country with their money. The IRS has announced they don't care if Congress doesn't pass a law. They tried last year and this year. They're going to talk to Homeland Security about putting you on a list. If they open an investigation on you, you can't leave the country even to go to Cancun for your honeymoon. This is what it is to live a slave. You want to live in North Korea? You are. I mean, it's known when countries do this, you're in deep trouble. Nobody does this, folks, but the most draconian places like North Korea. But in America, if it's a Democrat doing it, it's trendy. It's racist if you don't support North Korean-style currency controls, capital controls. Now, let's go over the 3 points. Chase needs to issue a statement clarifying exactly why they are imposing these capital controls. It's clear that these regulations are being enacted for 3 different but equally plausible reasons, all of which contribute to the ultimate goal of sacrificing the global economy on the altar of derivative monster zombie banks. Number 1, capital controls to prevent money leaving the country as the U.S. dollar continues to devalue. Note that Chase will allow international wire transfers coming in. Roaches come in, they don't go out, but not going out of the accounts. Note that they are only concerned about risk when the money is being moved out of the account. 2, forcing businesses to abandon cash and switching everything over to digital currency that can be easily tracked, traced, controlled, and pilfered, sucked off of. Security feed to death. Number 3, part of the preparatory phase of the Cyprus-style bail-ins, or robbery of bank accounts, were the government announcing a new tax to gouge out a percentage of people's savings or have the country go bankrupt under a debt limit increase. See, and now Obama says we can never question another debt limit increase before. That's financial terrorism. When they did it 4 months ago, and for 100+ days, the debt limit didn't go up. They just froze what they said the debt was when it was actually going up. So they decided this time to create all this hysteria. Now the Chinese communists have downgraded our credit. Now the whole world's making fun of us. Like, aha, the people that didn't want to increase their debt, they're the ones that hurt America. Oh, America's bankrupt now, going to be bankrupt soon and in hyperinflation because people didn't want to hyperinflate and because people didn't want to increase the debt. That's like saying he told that person not to shoot themselves in the head with a 45, and then the person did it. That person's dead. Aha, the person that warned them said it would kill them. They're discredited. Don't jump off that cliff. You may get hurt. You jump off, you break your legs, and then the person at the bottom goes, aha, you told me I'd break my legs. You're discredited. That's how dumbed down the public is, what I just broke down to you. They have maneuvered us like every other country towards this, and now they're going to hold us hostage like 2008, 2013, but it's going to become yearly and then monthly. Give us the water districts. Give us the power plants. Give us the roads. Go work every Saturday in a government work brigade, or it'll all go bankrupt. You're the faith and credit. This is your debt. You signed on to it. You do whatever we say. 100% taxes on the middle class, or everything will go bankrupt. And the giant welfare class goes, do it. And France votes 100% tax on the middle class. The middle class folds. That's good, because the ultra-socialist commandos, all with billions of dollars in Swiss bank accounts, they are even caught with the billions and are above the law because they have French Homeland Security with weapons standing by to kill anybody that speaks out. We're going to be just like that. There's other bizarre, crazy news up on Infowars.com. And I say bizarre because that's the headline. Bizarre Freemason rant on House floor during debt ceiling vote. You are all sons of the devil. I don't really think it's bizarre. I think that's true, at least most of them. Stenographer shouts as she is dragged away. I don't know. I think working around all that evil drives me pretty nuts. I'm just nuts watching it. Lockdown, your cash is no longer your own. Everything is fine. That's another article. Update, Chase Bank limits cash withdrawals, bans international wire transfers. That is now the biggest alternative / real news story in the country or in the world. Top Drudge link at drudgereport.com. And continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, the coming food stamp riots, a breakdown on that. Also, Chase employees admits orders from the top to limit cash for unknown reasons. We have video of that phone conversation in the studio that Anthony Gucciardi conducted. 9 reasons why many liberals absolutely hate Obamacare as they find out about what's really happening and how Americans have lost virtually all our constitutional rights. It's a good article showing how they've stolen them, but we haven't lost them. They're still inalienable. They're still there. We're just letting them tell us we're slaves. So you have to stand up and rediscover them to reverse this. But here's what I want to say about this. You're going to see the same process we've seen just since I've been politically awake more than 20 years. I've seen in the news more than 100 countries. There's only about 190 countries. I've seen more than 100 of them, sometimes multiple times in 20 years, have this same thing done to them where foreign banks take over their government, leverage all this debt that's actually paid to them. You understand, they usually pay the IMF World Bank money back to subsidiary private groups. And I've watched this over and over and over again. And then maneuver them into, okay, your debt limit's been reached. You know, go into deeper debt to us or we'll bankrupt everything. And then good people in the government fight it. The bankers pull back, control the press, lower their currency valuations, lower their credit ratings. There's a panic. Everybody goes, do what they say, and then you get deeper into bondage until there's no electricity and running water and just armored compounds with military helicopters flying around, and the money's transferred out of the country. And the globalists do that, they say, to take control of the world, to then bring in planetary government, to then bring in world population reduction. I was watching a clip just last night that Luke Radowski shot a long time ago, a few years ago, of Ted Turner. And he goes, Ted Turner, you said we should reduce population by 90%. Do you still believe that? And Turner turns around, looks so evil with bodyguards and goes, I think 2 billion's more like it, and then pivots and walks off. And you can say, hey, there are too many people. You could argue that in some cases. There is dirty technologies. There are problems. We are hurting the earth. But do you understand, folks, that they're bringing out a covert program with bisphenol A on record, declassified as an anti-fertility estrogen system that also increases cancers? That's Fox News, AP, Reuters now. We're going to talk about that in a moment. This is the reality of what we're talking about. So this is being done to all of us. So I just wanted to explain to everybody now that they're going to have the maneuvering of Obama, who just came out in a speech and said, don't listen to bloggers, don't listen to talk radio. They've openly authorized the Pentagon to engage in domestic lying operations. Now, that officially elapsed yesterday. That's now law that they lie to us. Law that they lie to us and engage in deception. And he says, don't listen to the real media. Don't listen to Alex Jones. Don't listen to Michael Savage. Don't listen to Matt Drudge. Don't listen to DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv, because it's not about left and right. It's not about liberal and Democrats versus conservative Republicans, as Matt Drudge put in a tweet a few months ago. It's libertarian versus authoritarian. It's freedom lover, whether you see yourself as a liberal libertarian or a conservative libertarian, whatever. That's the difference now, folks, and you better get it right now and come together. You better get that and come together, that we have been overrun by foreign banks, that when they're in control of countries, they wreck them, okay? And it's all happening now. I mean, look at these headlines. Government reopens after Congress ends 16-day shutdown. Chinese agency downgrades U.S. credit rating. News of France. Surprises tucked in the Senate bill. All this pork barrel ripping us off. Biden offers federal workers handshakes, hugs, and kisses. GM got bailout, now ships jobs to China. The Examiner finally being covered. I've been telling you that for 3 years. Just now the factories are opening that they've been building. They got suicide nets, of course. I mean, I'm not kidding. This is hell on earth. Oh, our government wants to pay to build factories with suicide nets and Foxconn, but they're liberal and want you to have free health care. Wake up, folks. Wake up. Wake up. Please, for heaven's sakes. They're now disguising manhole covers as giant wireless transformers, frying people in New York. I mean, that's Wired Magazine. We are entering the twilight zone, ladies and gentlemen. Humanity's in crisis. And the reason everybody's so on edge, freaking out everywhere, you'll notice it everywhere, is because people deep down know there's a crisis. And the government-run media, the state-run media goes, oh, it's Al-Qaeda, oh, it's right-wingers, oh, it's patriots, oh, it's anti-war people, it's anybody that doesn't, that questions they're the threat, misdirecting your instinctive concern. No, the concern, the reason you're freaked out is because the bad people are in control. They're the worst I've ever seen. Now, before we go to really big news and talk about how to take control of areas we can take control of, 30 minutes in the next hour, then we got Lyndon LaRouche joining us, and we've got a bunch of incredible civil rights activists joining us with open carry here in Texas and all over the country, historic things happening. We're on the march, the empire's on the run. Before we go any further, I'm excited about freedom. I'm awake. I'm upset. And I want to just follow me here. This is one of the most important things I've ever talked about. And I'm going to spend a few minutes, then we're going to our in-studio guest, who's driven here from South Texas. When I see a pregnant woman in a grocery store or on the street, or I see a woman with a newborn baby, and I always do it if they're with their husband, because it might be creepy for a woman alone to have some guy come over and get in her business. But it doesn't matter. I still do it because it has to be done. But I especially do it 100% of the time if a man's with her. When I see them, I have a responsibility to warn them about the GMOs, the fluoride, what's in the vaccines on record, U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, where it says for experimental or law enforcement reasons, they can kill you in test. They say that's the law. I say that's a fraud. And all the history of secret experimentation. I have a responsibility. If I was in Alabama, they didn't learn about this till the 80s. It went on for 45 years. If I was in Alabama when tens of thousands of black people came in for checkups, were told they were being given vaccines, and they were really being given a Pentagon-run program to give them syphilis, to spread syphilis amongst blacks, and to also test it. Horrible, torturous deaths that took decades. Spreading it to hundreds of thousands is estimated. Just like the declassification of HIV being put in the hepatitis shots for gay men in New York as a vector in the 70s. It was a Navy chemical, biological, weaponized cancer program under another name. We know it as HIV/AIDS today. That, by the way, is on record. The general public just hasn't researched it. So I know this type of stuff. I have responsibility because I know the major vaccines on record have cancer viruses, microplasms, all the additives. The insert says it can kill you, give you cancer, Guillain-Barré's, neurological disorders, narcolepsy. I have a responsibility, okay, to warn these people. And that's my info war. So my dad goes jogging with me this morning because I'm trying to get him in shape. I'm trying to get in shape myself. He's about 100 yards behind me. I walk by, I jog by these people. They're walking by me, and I see the father and the mother with a little bitty, look like almost newborn baby in the little pack on his chest. And I noticed the guy kind of looks at me and looks concerned. I go, oh, that guy recognizes me. Probably isn't a fan. I could assess him instantly, run by. I think I'm not going to mess with him. I come back by later. They're walking back the other way. And I said, hey, nice baby. I got 3 kids myself. I kind of stop. I go, man, I'm trying to get back in shape. This is hard. I really am taking a breather. And they're kind of looking at me, smiling. And I go, you know, nice baby. And they're like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And the guy goes, are you Alex Jones? And I said, yeah. And shook his hand, and she said her name. And his name is Ryan Crowley. We found his Facebook, and this is the guy. Just a couple hours ago, I was out there. There he is with his nice dogs. He's a PhD student in social studies at the University of Texas. He's a PhD candidate. I think he may already be a PhD. I don't have time to do research on him. And I'm going to start, I didn't do this today, videotaping the people. And I'm going to start putting them on air so that it gets some attention, so that they get warned, and so other people learn how to warn people. I'm not going to just tell you about this now. I'm going to multitask and then reach hundreds of thousands or millions by shooting a video and talking about them. And I talked to him for about 2 minutes. And I said, listen, I don't want to get in your business, but I said, vaccine technology is 500 years old. The guy looked like he was a smart guy. I said, you probably know that. And she was nodding. And I said, I'm not even saying there isn't something to the science. It's that the history of testing. He started rolling his eyes, and I went, well, you know about that. And he goes, that was a long time ago. I go, really? No, it's a lot worse now. It's all currently going on. They just use things that are less aggressive that kill you down the road or lower IQ. And I said, look up U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32 on bans on human testing, except for exemptions on law enforcement or research purposes. And then now she's smiling at me, almost laughing, almost thanking, almost, you know, saying, enjoy the rest of your run, as I ran on up the hill. So I haven't had time to look at his PhD papers. I don't know his politics, but he looked almost amused, but also kind of freaked out. And I said, listen, I care about your baby. I have responsibility. And I said, just like if it was Tuskegee, and I would have known in the 60s, decades before it came out, if I saw black folks walking into the clinic, I would be out there saying they're going to inject you with syphilis. And I said, just because, and I could tell, you're probably in the system somehow by the way you're looking at me. The guy's going to listen and hear this, go, wow, this guy really did read me. I think I thought he was probably a cop or military or something. I could tell he was establishment, but no, he's going to be an academic. Because there was kind of this smiling, like laughing. And I went, listen, I just care about your kid. You've been warned. And I turned and walked off. And people could say, man, that's really weird to do that. No, it's not. If I knew black people were being injected with syphilis, and I use that example because people seem to only know about that. Folks, they did it to poor Appalachians. They did it to Guatemalans. They're still doing it. They just gave hundreds of thousands of people in Africa and India polio with the polio vaccine on record, and it was a footnote in the paper. 66,000 kids got paralyzed in one round of shots in India alone. Bill Gates Foundation. Okay, I mean, I have a responsibility. This isn't a game. And I get why the people want to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you've got to admit it's true and then do something. So he's probably a great guy. My point is that he told me his name. I went and looked him up. He's a public figure, got a Facebook. I'm here talking about him and his wife. I love you. I want humanity to survive. I don't want to be under eugenics. I love everybody, and I'm here doing this so you hear about it, so you really research U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1528, paragraph B, which says we ban secret testing unless it's authorized for law enforcement purposes or research purposes. So I'm done talking about that. And they've got other codes, and they change it one year and change it back the next. So there's a bunch of versions. The point is, everybody knows about secret testing. Everybody knows the IQ's lowering. Everybody knows bisphenol A reduces fertility. Everybody knows this. Now, we're joined by a guy that I've got to say, as for medical guest, health guest, nutrition guest, is the most popular we've ever had. Hands down, Dr. Ed Group. And I'm not going to go over his whole giant bio. You can go to his website and look at that. But it's a huge, he's a diplomat of the American Clinical Board of Nutrition, doctor of chiropractic, diplomat of the American Board of Functional Medicine, diplomat of the Chiropractic Board of Clinical Nutrition, a naturopathic physician, certified clinical nutritionist, holistic health practitioner, certified clinical herbalist, and one of the big formulators in the country. Like, now that I really know who he is, he's like the name in it. That's why I said who's the best. Everybody told me this guy, so I got him. Lives here in Texas. Alternative medicine practitioner and a lot more. and he heads up his big, different centers and things. We're going to tell you about that. But the reason I got him back, and he's here with us till the bottom of the next hour, and then we're getting LaRouge on at the bottom of the hour. The reason I got him here is obviously we've had so many frequently asked questions about nascent iodine. You heard pharmacist Ben Fuchs, also a great mind, concur with his analysis yesterday. He, of course, heads up the, go back to the top and I'll actually plug the site for folks, Global Healing Center, Natural Health and Organic Living. And we wanted to get him back on to talk about nascent iodine and other things that go with it that are so important and why people are really blown away by it and what it does as a shield against fluoride and other things. But you just heard my whole rant. We're going to break in a moment, Dr. Grip, and I appreciate you being here. We're also going to tape an interview that'll air next week for the Nightly News. But you just heard what I said. Do you think it's extreme or bad to warn people when you know the vaccine insert says there's a chance it could kill your child or hurt them, and they lie at the hospital and tell you that it's safe and effective, no side effects, when even the drug ads on TV have to admit what it can do to you? With vaccines, they don't do that because they're the worst. Do you think I'm wrong? Should I not warn these people?
I think you should warn everybody. I warn people, too. I remember when my wife was pregnant and we went to the gynecologist's office, which I didn't even really want to go, but she wanted to do some tests just to make sure everything was okay. And there was a big sign on the door that said, "Don't forget to get your vaccine today for pregnant women." And I was in shock. And there was some people sitting in the office, and I was like, listen, do not get a vaccine. This is what can happen to you. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's amazing that we are literally living in a chemical matrix, because what led me to the root cause of diseases, I wasn't even taught that in all the schooling that I went through, and medical doctors aren't even taught what the root cause of disease is. And they don't want to teach them that, because even natural schools will teach you to prescribe a natural herb for something. I went on a mission like you for 10 years to try to figure out what's causing all these problems. What's the main reason we have all these chemicals in the environment? Looking at the air, looking at the water quality, looking at the food people are putting in their system, and then realized that all disease, I traced it all back and even looked at Russian and German research. Basically, all the chemical stew that you're bringing into your body on a daily basis overloads your system, and you're not able to get it out fast enough, and that is a direct link to all disease. And what we figured out was the most important part of the body, which is never taught in medical school, is how important the intestines are. Because when you look and you get a list of 1 million different chemicals and toxins that are entering the system on a daily basis, well, where are those and how are those toxins coming into the body? Most of them are all coming in through the intestines. And that's why people have such bad intestinal problems. That's why they have leaky gut, the GMOs with the BT toxin, burning holes through the intestinal lining, and all those toxins.
Does that to the honeybees on studies?
Absolutely. It blows up their stomach. I mean, the BT toxin. So what happens is you have an excess of toxins coming in, and not even to mention all the anti-fertility stuff that's out there, the thyroid disruption, the lack of iodine.
And by the way, and even mainline medical doctors, science, as you know, until about 10 years ago, they said never take a vaccine when you're pregnant because it's known to lead to miscarriage, autism, so many neurological problems. That is mainline medical science. Any doctor who was trained before 10 years ago will say, we were taught that. We know that. Now it's like, no, you need extra when you're pregnant.
And now look at all the drugstores everywhere. You go to a drugstore and you get 5% off your bill if you get a vaccination. If you get flu shots now, they're promoting flu shots for pregnant women. So it's a conglomerate of all these toxins that are being pushed upon us to create disease, to put money back into the main.
It is a mainlining of secret testing, bioweapon programs under the eugenics program carried out in Germany, England, the United States. The United States with England created eugenics. They created Adolf Hitler on record. And I told this PhD guy that. And I said, you know that. You know he was Time Magazine Man of the Year. You know they set him up. The guy was like listening to me at that point. We're in deep trouble. Stay with us. GlobalHealingCenter.com is the amazing website of Dr. Ed Grube. You can find the nascent iodine that everybody has tried out here in the office versus the other leading competitors. And I didn't start selling this going after the leading competitors. I'm not. Leading competitors like eat the stopper out of the top. I can't even take it. It's the most nasty stuff I've ever tasted. And they say that's nascent iodine. And Grube's such a nice guy. He's like, well, I don't want to say anything, but really that stuff breaks down in alcohol and other stuff. It's not really nascent anymore. And I want you to speak about that. Then we're going to get into BPA and the new study out and what that's doing to the chromosomes and why the babies are having the autism and the deformity and the rest of it when we start the next hour. But this is sold out, and the factory that's been around 40 years, the organic factory that he exclusively uses, is making more exclusively for us right now. It's back ordered about 3 weeks just to be safe. It should be in about 2 weeks, and then a week to get it shipped out to you. But everybody that already ordered, it's either been shipped or is being shipped in the next few days. But if you want to get in line to get the Survival Shield nascent iodine dietary supplement from InfoWars Life, it's called Survival Shield. Then you go to InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And the great thing is we're funding our hardcore news operation, fighting for liberty and warning people with great products. It's a win-win-win. Dr. Group, we're going to get into the whole bisphenol A and other toxins that have to be avoided and more when we start the next hour. But briefly, going out to break here starting the next hour, you were getting into this total assault and why they want to make us sick for the medical model, this medical tyranny. In Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, the medical system was the tyranny because the tyrants found guys in white lab coats and get away with anything.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, if a whole population is constantly sick, I mean, you can walk up to anybody on the streets right now and say, do you feel healthy? Do you feel 100%? I mean, you're not going to find anybody. I mean, even children, they're starting now when women are pregnant. They're starting before women are pregnant. They're trying to prevent them from getting pregnant. I mean, it's even if a young child is born, they're finding all kinds of chemicals in the breast milk right now that from the time the child is born, they're fed not breast milk, what they should be fed in most cases, but they're on soy formulas, GMO stuff. I mean, the kid is now sick from an early age. The mothers are sick. I mean, everybody out there suffers from at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different negative health conditions. And it says, really, the solution is as easy as we know, and we've been talking about it for years, how many chemicals and how many toxins and all this stuff that we're bombarded with on a daily basis. Everybody has to cleanse their body on a regular basis. They have a shower. They take a shower. They wash their skin, but they don't clean the inside of their system. And the big secret that we found was if you have 1 million toxins coming into your body on a daily basis and you're only able to get rid of, let's say, 500,000 toxins on a daily basis, you still have 500,000 toxins that your body has to keep and store somewhere in its system. And how do we normally, naturally get rid of toxins? Well, through exercise. We have respiration, sweating. We have urination. We have defecation. And women have 5 elimination routes because they have their menstrual cycles.
We also have abomination.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother subject right there, which is going to even cause more damage to the healthcare system.
And we have chemtrailination, but go ahead.
We have chemtrailination, and we have the fact that we have a declining healthcare system that's a serious, serious problem, and we need people to stand up and take responsibility for their own health, really, because you know how much we can save and how we can attack this whole system is just preventing ingestion of all the things that cause disease. Just if you take away 90% of the things that toxins that people are putting into their system on a daily basis, you can reduce doctor's visits. You can reduce prescription medication.
You're right. Stay there. I mean, I saw a Washington Post article a few months ago where they have to plant crops for the bees that aren't for humans just so all the bees don't die. That's how toxic it is. Well, if you just joined us, J.P. Morgan Chase says they don't need your business. They've got the Federal Reserve. They've got tens of trillions of banker bailout money. They're going to basically charge you to deposit cash with them. Won't let you make any foreign transfers of money, but money can come in. Sounds like capital controls to me. The story's top story on DrudgeReport.com. Dr. Ed Group's with us. Another 30 minutes. Then Lyndon LaRouche is going to pop in to give us his geopolitical angle on what's happening and more here on this.